Hallo Leute, welcome back to my channel Deutschflix, where we make German easier than picking what to watch on Netflix.
No.
Imagine this. You meet a German person and you wanna say, I ate pizza last night. So you confidently say, Ich esse Pizza gestern Nacht. And boom, their face freezes just like Windows 98. So don't worry, today we'll fix that. Let's master the perfect tense and we'll make it perfectly simple. Sind Sie bereit? Are you ready? Los geht's. So there are various terms used for perfect. It is also called G form and Partizip II. So let's try to understand these terms one by one. So perfect, you can relate it with the present perfect of English. For example, I have just completed my homework or I have eaten a bowl of soup. But here's the catch, you can also relate it with the simple past of English. For example, I completed my homework or I ate a bowl of soup. So, all in all, I would say if you were to express your thoughts in past, then your go-to tense must be perfect of German. Now, what is Partizip II? This you can relate it with the past participle of English. Which is also called third form of the verb. So we'll see how do we say spoken, written, put, played, which are nothing but the third form of the verb or past participle. And in case you're wondering where is Partizip I, that is something we discuss at higher level like B1 and B2. Now coming to this term called G form, I'll give you one example. In order to say done in German, you say gemacht. So in today's episode, we are gonna focus more on this part, how to build Partizip II in German. And then you will realize this thing, okay, the words, they start with GE. Hence, it is also called G form. Now we will discuss its sentence structure. So in English, when you say I have completed my homework, you use the helping verb, which is has or have, and then you use the third form of the verb, which is also called past participle, which is completed. So in German also, we have helping verb, but we have to decide between two. Helping verb can be either haben or it can be sein. So to be or not to be, that is not the question. To be or to have, that is the question. And there is Partizip II. Now we'll discuss their position. If I talk about Partizip II, position is fixed, it will be at the end of the sentence. So in English you say I have completed my homework, but in German you'll end up saying something like I have my homework completed. So we have to throw this Partizip II at the end of the sentence. Now if we talk about haben or sein, the helping verb, position can be either second or first. Why is the helping verb having two positions? Because it is dependent on the type of sentences. So if it is W-Frage oder Aussagesatz, then the position will be second. But if it is Ja-Nein-Frage, position will be first. Okay, so in case of W question and statement or full stop sentences, I will use one of the helping verbs in the second place. And if it is yes no question, Then I will pick one helping verb out of these two and place it in the first position. So for now, we are concentrating on this thing, how to make participle zwei. And after that, we'll focus on Haben oder Sein, as in which verb to pick while framing a sentence. Alright, so in present tense, I categorize the verbs into two parts, regular verbs and irregular verbs. Similarly, in past tense, as in perfect, we also have regular verbs and irregular verbs. Now, for the regular verbs, the formula is that you have to take the root, you have to start it with GE, and at the end, you have to write either T or ET. You'll write ET at the end if your root it is ending in D or T. Zum Beispiel, for example, let's take machen, which means to make or to do. Now, in case of machen, en is the ending, whatever is left will be the root. So I'll write root as it is, which is mach. I'll write GE in front of it. And at the end, shall I write T or ET? For that, I have to perform this check. Is my root ending in D or T? The answer is no, 9. Then we will go with T. And we are done building participle zwei of machen, which is gemacht. Now this means done. I'll take one more example. Let's take arbeiten. So in case of arbeiten, en is the ending, whatever is left will be root. So I'll write root as it is, arbeit. I'll write GE in front of it. And is my root ending in D or T? Yes, it is ending in T. So we will choose this one now, this ending ET. Why are we choosing ET? Just to make the pronunciation easier. If there was no E, it would have been troublesome to pronounce this word now. Now, E is making the pronunciation easier, gearbeitet. Now, I'll give you some verbs for which you have to build participle zwei and make sure you're leaving some space. You'll get to understand why. So you can pause the video and we'll discuss the answers in 5 seconds. Alright, you can check your answers with me. Okay, pronunciation check. Gespielt, gewohnt, geantwortet, gelernt, gehört, geliebt, gekocht, gekauft, geübt, gestellt, gemietet. And one more question. So you have to think about what will happen in case of trennbare Verben, separable verbs. As an example, let's take einkaufen, which is a separable verb. Now what will be its participle zwei? Think about it. In case you're thinking, for kaufen, its participle zwei will be gekauft. And then at the end we will write ein. This is wrong. So for kaufen, it is gekauft. And then you have to write ein in the front. So it becomes eingekauft. So GE, that has to come between prefix and suffix. Okay, so what happens in case of irregular verbs? So for that, the formula is that you again have to take the root. You again have to start with GE, but at the end you have to write EN. There's only one ending, EN. But wait a minute, root plus EN is the verb itself. So basically, all you have to do is just write GE in front of the verb and you're done. Now I'll give you a list of verbs and you have to make participe zwei. For example, fahren, its participe zwei will be gefahren. I'll take the root together with en, which is the verb itself, and ge in front of it. So for fahren, it becomes gefahren. Now you have to write participe zwei for other verbs. I'll start writing participe zwei after 5 seconds. Alright. So there were a couple of separable verbs as well. You can check the answer. For einladen, it is eingeladen, angekommen, angerufen. Now there's one thing which is super weird on this page. So you have to think about it. In case you couldn't figure it out, I'll tell you. Question is common irregular verb? The answer is no. If you were to conjugate common according to do, you say du kommst. You don't say du kommst. If you were to conjugate rufen according to do, then you say du rufst. You don't say du rufst. That means these verbs, common, uncommon, unrufen, they are not irregular verbs, they are regular verbs only. But the thing is, they are considered irregular in past tense, as in imperfect. So this is something you have to learn by heart. Now there are some verbs, if you were to make participe zwei, you do not use GE at all. Now what are the conditions? First condition is if the verbs they are ending in IEREN. I'll give you one example. Notieren, which means noted. Now, notieren is regular verb, so ideally participe zwei would have been that I'll just take the root. In our case, it will be notier. I'll write GE in front of it. And then since my root is ending in R, it's not DOT, so I'll go with T at the end. Right? But since my verb is ending in IEREN, I have to drop this GE. So I'll erase this GE and the answer will be notiert. Now I'll give you more verbs. You have to write down the participe zwei. Alright, so for kommunizieren, participe zwei, kommuniziert. Recherchiert, passiert, studiert, gratuliert. So this was the first situation. Second situation is if the verbs they are beginning with some prefixes. So I'll note down those prefixes. So those prefixes are fair, be, ent, amp, air. You do not have to use ge at all. So on the left hand side, I'll just note down the verbs. You have to write participe zwei. You can now pause the video. Okay, first up we have besuchen. So suchen is regular verb. So what I will do is, I'll initially write for suchen, which is gesucht. And then there is be. I just have to remove this ge and I'm done. So participe zwei becomes besucht. Similarly for erklären, it becomes erklärt. Empfangen. Now fangen is irregular verb where a changes to a umlaut. So for empfangen it will be same. Empfangen. Verkaufen, verkauft. Erfahren. If you have written erfahrt, that is wrong. It will be erfahren. Why? That is also irregular verb. A changes to a umlaut. Moreover, for fahren we have also written it is gefahren. So all I have to do is remove ge. And in front there is air. So erfahren. Then we have vermieten. Participe zwei vermietet. So there's something peculiar about these prefixes. Remember the episode wherein we discussed trennbare Verben, separable verbs. So in German there are also non-separable verbs. These are the prefixes which you cannot separate in a sentence. For example, besuchen means to visit someone. Now I cannot say ich suche ihn be, which means I visit him. No, this can never be separated. You have to say ich besuche ihn. So this is something that is discussed at levels like P1 or P2. So always remember, with these prefixes, there will not be any ge. Let's move forward. Now let's discuss some exceptions. For every grammar rule that we have discussed so far, there has always been an exception. So for many verbs in German, you simply have to learn participe zwei by heart. I can maybe relate it with the English grammar. So our teacher told us that if you write ed at the end, you're done making past participle. For example, for play, it is called played. However, that is not the case with the verb write. Now its past participle is not writed, but rather written. Also for speak, it is spoken. So we have this rule wherein we had to end it with en. But what about the verb put? Do I say putted or putten? And the answer is put remains put. So this is something we have learnt with time. In German also, you do not have to mug up all the participe zwei overnight. You have to give time to this topic and gradually learn participe zwei. Now I'll write down the verbs first which are part of exception, and I'll take all those verbs which are used very frequently in everyday life. So gehen is regular verb. Ideally, participe zwei should have been gegeht, which is not the case. Participe zwei is called gegangen. Schreiben is a regular verb. Partizip zwei should have been geschreibt, but it is called geschrieben. So there is change in diphthong here. Here we have EI, and here in Partizip zwei we have IE. This is called schreiben, and this is geschrieben. For fliegen, ideally it should be gefliegt, but it is geflogen. Now for essen, it is funny. It is called gegessen. Helfen, geholfen. Sprechen, gesprochen. Finden, gefunden. Trinken, getrunken. Sein, gewesen. So we have a new word altogether. Bringen, gebracht. I'll take one more. Nehmen. Its participe zwei is genommen. So in every language, verbs are unlimited. So it's better you focus on all those verbs which are used very frequently in everyday life. And I have listed all those verbs here. And that's it. So we are done building participe zwei. Now we just have to concentrate on this part, which is a bit tricky. How will I know whether I'll go with haben as a helping verb or sein? So let's discuss this. So 99% of the time it happens that you use the helping verb haben. Now what about that 1%? Those 1% of the verbs will take sein as a helping verb. What are the conditions? First condition says if there is change in the movement. There are verbs in German which show change in the movement. For example, to go, which is called gehen. So you go from A to B. Or fliegen, you fly from A to B. Or fahren, you drive from A to B. Or rennen, which means to run, so you run from A to B. So there is change in the movement. For all those verbs, you have to use sein as a helping verb. And the second condition says if there is change in the state. I'll explain this with the help of some verbs. Let's take sterben as an example. Now the meaning of sterben is to die. And when you die, there is change in the state from being alive to being dead. So there is change in the state. One more example, aufstehen, which means to get up. So this verb also shows change in the state. How? From being sleepy to all wide awake and leaving the bed. So there is change in the state. One more example. Einschlafen means to fall asleep. So earlier the student was pretty much attentive in the class. Suddenly he fell asleep. So there is change in the state from being all attentive to being sleepy suddenly. So for such verbs, you have to use sein as a helping verb. And one last condition, Ausnahmen, exceptions. You simply have to learn by heart because there will not be any change in the moment. There will not be any change in the state. Still, those verbs take sein as a helping verb. You have to learn by heart. So, bleiben means to stay. In case of staying, there is no change in the movement, there's no change in the state. Still, this verb takes sein as helping verb. I'll take two more examples. Passieren, which means to happen, and its synonym, which is geschehen. It also means happen. So there is no change in the state, there is no change in the movement. Still, these verbs take sein as helping verb. Now what I'll do is, let's start writing the helping verb of each and every verb discussed so far. So I'll come back to the first page. So if someone asks you for machen, what is the Partizip II? So don't just say gemacht. You have to learn this Partizip II together with the helping verb. I understand that's not the case with the English grammar, wherein you just learnt for write it is written. But in German, you also have to understand there is helping verb which is fixed to each and every verb. Okay? Now there are two ways of telling Partizip II. Either you say that Partizip II of machen is gemacht and it takes haben as helping verb. Okay, like this. So if someone asks you what is the Partizip II arbeiten, then you say it is gearbeitet and it takes haben as helping verb. But the nomenclature says that you tell Partizip II like this, that you write the third person singular conjugation, which is hat, then dot 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 gemacht. Similarly for arbeiten, hat gearbeitet. Spielen, hat gespielt. Wohnen, hat gewohnt. Like this. It is very easy to memorize the helping verb. They are also rhyming somehow. Hat gewohnt, hat gespielt. But that doesn't mean that you have to, while framing a sentence, use hat only. Obviously, I have to conjugate this verb accordingly depending on the subject. If it is ich, then it will be ich habe gemacht. If it is du, then I'll say du hast gearbeitet. I cannot do conjugation mistake. Okay, I'll start writing the helping verb. Okay, on this page, each and every verb is taking haben as helping verb. Like I said, 99% of the verbs take haben as helping verb. So if you want to play safe, always go with haben. Now for fahren, it shows motion. If it shows motion, it will take sein as a helping verb. Now again, either you can say Partizip II of fahren is gefahren and it takes sein as a helping verb. Or you can say it like this, that you conjugate sein according to third person singular, which is ist. So ist gefahren. Schlafen, hat geschlafen. Sehen, hat gesehen. And for other verbs, wherever you're seeing ist, those verbs show motion. On this page, we just discussed now, passieren is exception. There's no change in the state, no change in the motion, yet this verb still takes sein as a helping verb. On this page, on this page, now on this page verbs are getting repeated. So I'll write the helping verb and partizip II for the unique verbs. For reisen, it is ist gereist. Rennen ist gerannt. Sterben ist gestorben. Aufstehen ist aufgestanden. Einschlafen ist eingeschlafen. And for bleiben ist geblieben. For geschehen ist geschieht. So this is geschieht. There is H here and T at the end. As you can see on this page, even the verb sein, it takes sein as helping verb. Ist gewesen. There's no change in the movement or state, yet this verb takes sein as helping verb. So that is part of exception. I'll write sein here as well. And this is ist eingeschlafen. I'll write it here. So for the frequently used verbs in everyday life, I've given you partizip II. What if you come across a new verb? How will you check the partizip II of that verb? So you can again use Leo Dictionary app for that. I'll open that. Now let's say you come across a verb called begin. So begin is starting with BE, right? There will not be GE. At least this is what I know. Okay, so I'll search this. Now after begin, you can see beginning. You can forget this, ignore this. And after that we have begangen. That is the partizip II. Okay. Now what if I want to check its helping verb? For that you have to click on begin. Scroll a little, verb formen you can see, right? Click again on begin and you will get the conjugation table. In present tense, this is the conjugation, and in perfect, this is the conjugation. Ich habe begangen, du hast begangen, etc. So this is what telling me, okay, begin, its partizip II is begangen and it takes haben as helping verb. Let's take one more. Let's take hochladen, which means to upload. Okay, you can see the verb hochladen. After that, lud hoch. You can ignore that. Then we have hochgeladen. Okay. Now, in order to check for its helping verb, I'll click on hochladen, scroll a little, verb formen. Again, hochladen, I'll click on it, and then this is the conjugation. For perfect, we say ich habe hochgeladen, du hast hochgeladen, etc. Alternatively, you can also use ChatGPT. You can simply ask what is the partizip II of this particular verb. If in the result you're not seeing helping verb, you can also ask for it. Now let's discuss some examples. So we'll try to translate when have you completed the homework. So let's try to translate when have you done the homework. Okay, so we have done here in infinitive or base form is called to do. Now, what is to do called in German? It is called machen. And we just discussed Partizip II of machen is hat gemacht. So we just have to somehow incorporate hat gemacht in our sentence. Now let's do the translation. When is called wann. And in case of W-Frage, this helping verb will take the second place. So I'll write hat as it is. But then we have the subject you. Let's take do. Now the problem is with the conjugation. I cannot say one hat to. Correct conjugation will be one has to. Position of this participle zwei is fixed. It will be at the end of the sentence. Wann hast du gemacht means when have you done. Now we're just left with the homework, which is called die Hausaufgabe. Wann hast du die Hausaufgabe gemacht? Literal translation, when have you the homework completed? Now let's try to translate I have gone to my uncle. So we have gone, its base form is to go, right? Which is called gehen in German. And we discussed for gehen, Partizip II ist gegangen. So we just have to somehow incorporate this ist gegangen. I is called ich. Then comes the helping verb, which in our case is ist. At the end will be gegangen. Now the problem is with the conjugation. Ich ist we can never say. It will be ich bin. So ich bin gegangen means I have gone. Now we are left with to my uncle. So to is called zu. My uncle. Literal translation will be mein Onkel. But zu, this is dative preposition and we have to give dative treatment after that. So der Onkel changes to dem Onkel in dative case. Similarly, mine will be changed to meinem. Ich bin zu meinem Onkel gegangen is the correct translation. Now I'll give you two sentences which you have to translate. She has visited her aunt. Why have they learnt German? For individual words you can use dictionary, but don't use Google Translator for the entire sentence. We'll discuss the answers in 5 seconds. Alright, so she has visited her aunt. The verb is to visit, which is called besuchen. And for besuchen, the participle zwei is hat besucht. So we'll say sie hat, at the end besucht. It becomes she has visited. Now we're left with her aunt, which is called ihre Tante. Sie hat ihre Tante besucht. Next sentence, why have they learnt German? So lernen is the verb to learn. Partizip zwei, hat gelernt. So we'll say, warum haben Sie? That's how you will conjugate the verb according to Sie. Haben Sie. At the end will be gelernt. And German is called Deutsch. Warum haben Sie Deutsch gelernt? Und das war's, Leute, that was it. But this was just the part 1. In the next episode, I'll come up with more practice exercises to understand this topic better. Bis zum nächsten Mal. Tschüss.
Like and subscribe.